Okay, so you guys know how being petty is like my spiritual gift, right?
Welcome to a new segment I'm calling That's Not Biblical.
Thank you for your contribution, man. Now,
Hello.
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 Oh, we should
like
do
three
that
part.
sometime.
We should.
Hello.
Hello.
You gotta let me. No, you gotta let me stay on the low end, Rachel.
Go for it.
No, I can't be the bass note.
Why not?
I also can't be any of the harmonizing notes.
So what are you gonna be?
I'm be pretty.
Okay. What if one time we did start and we all were just like singing? What if we did a musical? Like the whole episode was us singing.
That sounds like a lot of pre-planning.
That sounds like a
Unless-
lot of
are we
losing
doing-
our audience.
Are we doing spontaneous?
Yes,
Everybody
totally
make a
spontaneous.
face. Wow, that picture is a lot to deal with.
Hi, Em.
Hi, Em.
Listen,
Ooh,
I-
miss you too.
I'm about to tell you on the note of what you just said. I'm about to tell you something very embarrassing about myself. And that
Do it.
is that my best friend in high school, Brittany, and I, one day in music class in like 9th grade, we had like a free day. She was like, do whatever you guys want to do today. People were playing cards. People were like, we went to a private school, do whatever we want. And she and I basically for 45 minutes did like an impromptu musical. We just made up. We were like so weird. I have no idea why anybody was
love
ever
that.
friends with us. It was.
I
I'm
love
going to
that for
actually
you.
text her and tell her that I'm telling the world that. I love it for me too.
Yeah.
The people were just so used to us. Like nobody even like paid any mind to us, just dancing around the room, putting on a musical.
Guys, I'm tagging each of you in an Instagram story to let people know that we're doing this
Okay.
because I feel like
Probably should have done that before.
I did post something today.
Oh, you did?
Sorry,
Yeah.
I did not.
So I know that's why I'm telling you so that you can each go do the reshare.
Okay.
Mm.
Because
While
I
we're
think
right
a lot
here.
of our I think a lot of our live audience really depends on that.
I did post it in the Recovering Evangelical Facebook group
Nice.
just like 15 minutes ago.
And I
I've
mean,
learned that you can't tell
obviously-
them too early. Because if you tell them too early, then they forget
Mm.
or they have like things going on. If you tell them right before, they're there.
True. But also, we had like a beautiful, artistic, cinematic masterpiece on our TikTok to remind everybody.
We did.
I just saw that right before this. And I was like,
Did you want to throw up a little bit?
no, I thought it was amazing.
You should see the outtakes.
You should
should do a
not see the
blooper reel.
outtakes. No, let's not do that. Abby said, Rachel, send me this. And I just went with it. I didn't know what she was going to say. So she got to, have a little bit more fun, which I normally get to do. When we do videos, normally you two send me stuff and then I make it all work together. And so it was weird.
It was definitely like a day and also 15 minutes. We're
Caitlin.
just an Apple product now that we're like, would you like a reminder the day of, 15 minutes before, half an hour before?
What if we did just like mass remind them to come?
I feel like we should just always add it to the end of every single social media post we make throughout the month, like a countdown. You know what I mean? Like
April's looking at us like
doing her
literally
sketch,
no.
and then at the end she's like, and don't forget the Heretics happens next week, Monday night at 9/8 Central.
Wouldn't it be terrible if like one of us was like crying on a TikTok, which it would be probably me.
Yeah, what do you mean one of us? April, have you ever cried on a TikTok?
I don't think so, unless I was fake crying like for a bit.
Well, Abby does sometimes. It's mostly me, but I'm saying, what if we were crying talking about something super serious, and then all of a sudden, and tune in next Monday for like it'd be so.
Thank you so much for listening to me. This has just been a really hard day.
I have not cried on TikTok in months.
Next week.
In months.
I'm going to go to your TikTok right now and find how that's a lie.
Well, to be fair, in the last like week and a half, I've TikToked like maybe like 5 times. Prior to that, it had been like once every I was not really.
Yeah, you were slowing down.
being on TikTok very
You're
much.
getting ready for the ban.
I don't know. Now I'm mad because I'm like, should I have been creating this whole time because they're about to take it away from me?
for sure. I feel like I am stuck in that place too, where I'm like, I just now have gotten the bandwidth back to like really invest in that sort of like content creation and a podcast and like blah blah blah. And now they're like, TikTok's on its way. And Elon, no, that was my
Ellen?
neighbor in the 8th grade.
Yellen?
Elon Musk is out here like, I swear to God, that man just sits at his desk all day and is like, what can I do to drive Twitter into the ground? What can I do now? Have you seen the thing he's going to do now?
No, what's he
He's
gonna do?
taking away everyone's verification unless you subscribe to Twitter Blue, right?
Oh, like
I
everybody?
mean, yeah.
As of April 1st, they said that I saw a tweet that they're basically, they're getting rid of the legacy verification.
Yes. And if you are not verified, you are no longer eligible. You will no longer be eligible to appear in people's suggested, like the For You. They have their own, Twitter has its own For You feed and then a following feed. And if you are not verified, you are no longer eligible to be in the For You feed, which means you have no discoverability. And he also is saying that if you are not verified, you can't vote in polls, in Twitter polls.
What a dummy.
And a lot of people are saying that one is a kickback because of the time that he posted a poll that was like, who's happy I'm here? And the entire world was like, no one.
Literally none of us. Literally no one. Something about that guy just really irks me.
I will never buy Twitter Blue.
Never.
I will go invisible on Twitter if I have to.
I have wanted to, like, you know how a lot of like the Theo bros and stuff on TikTok will just respond pronouns in bio to people. I'm like, we should just start saying like, hey,
Twitter verified.
Twitter. Like, you
I know,
literally
Twitter subscribes to Twitter Blue.
281 followers, and you're like, Twitter.
Yeah.
Like,
the problem is there are people that I am like that I do follow or that I am Twitter mutuals with who are still legacy verified. Like they got verified through whatever course. And I thought about today, when I saw this, I almost tweeted, if you are verified, I will automatically unfollow you. And then I didn't do it because I was like, no, there are people that I follow and who I genuinely love that I'm like, I don't want them to think I'm talking about them.
Right.
But now that I know they're going to lose that verification anyway.
There's some people I know that bought or that have subscribed to Twitter Blue just for like
the edit feature.
Yeah, to be able to edit tweets,
yeah.
which is like honestly like the biggest perk of the whole
I'm
thing.
not giving him any of my money.
I know, I'm not either.
Yeah.
But it would be more tempting if you could do it without getting the blue check mark, because anytime I tweet something and I'll get like, because it always pushes the people with the blue check marks to the front, whether they're verified or it's Twitter Blue. And I'll be like, who's this person? And they're verified. And then I click it. And of course, it's someone with like 5 followers. And it says, this person is verified because they subscribe to Twitter Blue. I'm like, stupid.
Twitter is a wild place the last couple days, y'all. It's been like multiple times I've had to be like, you know what? I'm going to just back away from this app.
I found one person who's been really shitty on Twitter the last couple of days. I found her on TikTok. She has like 170,000 followers there too. And I'm like, I'm going to try to drag you over here because you suck super bad.
Dude, she sucks so bad.
April, do you know what we're talking about?
I don't.
We'll be real abbreviated with this because we have other things to talk about. But it's the video I made tonight about it was like, it's one of these reasons where like you should check somebody out everywhere before you put a stamp of approval, because her whole platform, all the work she does is to get accurate female anatomy into medical. So
was this the girl that was talking about post-op?
I can tell that's
for everyone listening. This is what this girl does. She is trying to and has successfully gotten accurate female anatomy into medical curriculum, because it's not like it's just not there. So like that's a really noble thing, and you're like, this girl's awesome, right?
Legitimate,
so great. And then today she's like, because she's being really turfy and saying that like she can tell a trans vulva from a quote unquote normal vulva, which I'm just like,
Mhm.
oh, I hate you so freaking much. She said today that if people didn't leave her alone, she would teach cis men who hate trans people how to tell the
She
difference.
literally
Like,
said anti-trans
yeah,
people who will all be men who don't want to date trans women.
how to tell the difference. That like you're threatening violence from people who largely already want to kill trans people.
Was
Like
so gross.
it was so freaking gross. I hate her.
I
Anyway,
hate
that
her
is
too.
not what we're here to talk about.
Is
I
she
hate her
technically like
too.
progressive on like other
Yes.
things?
So
Ugh.
the whole issue stems from the fact someone did an art installation where they were talking about diversity in female anatomy, and this girl on Twitter was like, I can tell that there are trans vulvas in here, and here's why. The basis of what she's saying is that medically speaking, male doctors who are in charge of all the things don't have a good grasp of what female anatomy actually looks like. Her point is that she can tell which of the vaginas and vulvas are trans, meaning like surgically created, because they're
Because the
anatomically
men don't know
incorrect.
how to recreate an
Exactly.
actual
And like,
vulva.
I think there's actually something really cool that she could have said in that by being like, we are doing a disservice to trans women by making them fall into line of like patriarchal standards of female anatomy. And she talks a lot about like the pleasure receptors and the nerve endings and the clitoris. And she's advocating for accurate anatomical information medically,
Mhm.
and that should be the standard. The standard shouldn't be a man's understanding of what a woman's body should look like. That in and of itself, fantastic. Perfectly great. Great point. The way she fucking did it, it's like if I was like, hey, you have a fly on your head. Let me help you out. And then I got out an aluminum bat. You know what I mean? It didn't make any sense. And as many people kept being like, yo, what is happening? And she was like, you can't bully me off Twitter. I know a real vulva when I see it.
You guys, she was tweeting every 3.5 seconds and it got
It was
worse and worse
so
and worse.
intense.
She
That's what-
quoted something awful and included the N-word in it. Like, just,
what?
yeah,
Just-
she's bonkers.
How do people not know? Like when you get called out for something, for being transphobic or whatever, one of the phobics or racist or whatever, you don't double down.
Yeah.
You just,
And
I'm
she
so
doubled
sorry.
down
That is not
so
what I
hard
meant.
to the point where she was like, how can I apologize? Like, what do I need to do to apologize adequately where I don't actually have to say that I'm wrong or that I don't know what I know? And everyone was like, what? It's no.
She literally just kept saying, if I'm wrong, how could I tell the one that was trans? How could I tell out of 15? How could I tell the one? Someone was like, try to do one out of 100, one out of
Because
1,000. Like
she was
vulva,
actually-
nobody's vulva
cis-
looks the same as everybody
Multiple
else's.
cis women were in the mentions being like, mine looks like the ones you're saying aren't real. So like, fuck you, dude. Like
She
you
also
clearly,
got one of them wrong.
yeah.
She
Anyway, this is
initially-
so off
Yeah.
topic, but it's just, did
Fuck
you
that
see,
bitch.
did you see the guy on Twitter who everyone and their mother is dragging across hot coals because he is crusading against the bill suggesting, see, now I'm going to get it all muddled up because I've been rage twittering all day. Basically, he just keeps tweeting that like he doesn't want his daughter using tampons and the schools can't make him.
Yeah,
Oh.
they want no tampons because tampons are giving away tampons at school is woke.
Is
That's
and it's gonna take away my. It kept calling teachers groomers for providing tampons to
That's so stupid.
people who need them. Like, what are
You try
talking
playing a
about?
basketball game in high school on your
Yep.
period with
Yep.
a freaking
With a
pad.
pad.
Yeah,
No.
been there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he just kept saying
awful.
pads are perfectly adequate and they protect virginity. And I was like, oh my God, you're so dumb.
I hate everyone.
So dumb. It hurts.
This is actually not what we're here to
No.
talk about.
We should do an episode though where we just talk about how obnoxious Twitter is before Twitter dies.
It would be like a really, really long episode because, okay, we can't go into this, but real quick, Remember my favorite Twitter best friend, Brandon Durham, that made all the video, like we made all the
Oh,
videos.
yeah.
He wrote the blog about me.
Yep.
Guess who lost his job at the church?
Brandon?
Brandon Durham. I got a message from someone this week and they said, "You did well." That's what the message said. I'm like, this had something to
Was
do
it because of your stuff?
I think my stuff started it. He had to have some meetings with the elders from that. And yeah, he got fired from his church.
Oh, let's have a moment of silence to
Ready?
celebrate this victory.
Okay, that's enough.
I love that, like, because you just know that your stuff probably sparked something and they're like, hey, we just need to talk to you. And he probably went in there like, I stand by everything I said.
Yeah.
I know that I had to go out on a line and I know you guys are going to respect that. And they were just like,
She was a skank.
What was his fate? What was
She
that one
was a
line he said in the blog?
It's on my TikTok bio still to this day that I'm a veritable geyser of vulgarity, which is the
my
nicest
favorite
thing.
is just like the incredibly intense imagery used to describe the hallway.
Oh yeah, down to
Underneath
the
smoky
brothel
neon sign that said TikTok.
and a dark shadowy figure appeared. Meet
What do
Rachel.
all of these conversations have in common that we've just had? Honestly, it's one thing: assholes. They were all
assholes? And
assholes.
that's what we're here to talk about.
And before we go any further, this is your monthly reminder, 15 minutes late. Please don't listen to this podcast around your kids, because
I think they know that by now.
yeah, if you didn't turn the kids away at vulvas, I can't help you. Like, there's just
Somewhere a man is Googling vulva because he doesn't know the difference between a vagina and a vulva. Laughing, but we're right.
The thing that all of these irritants have in common is that all of these people that we've talked about are assholes, and they all fall into various camps in terms of what they believe or identify as or have faith in. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about, I don't remember how I phrased it in the email, exvangelical
Assholery.
Assholery. Exvangelical
It's the name
assholery.
of the episode.
Is it really? I love that. Exvangelical assholery. And because let me just preface this by saying this is not at all about us being like, this person's an asshole and this person. This is as much about like reflecting back on our own behavior and ways that we have engaged, deconstruction and exvangelical hoodism. I don't know, but just ways that we've kind of carried on some of those things in our own platforms and in our own lives and conversations. And I think that it's really valuable to talk about what it means to be an asshole on the other side of evangelicalism, because so often people leave the church, they leave the evangelical church, and they're like, okay, I'm
All
cured.
Mm-hmm. All better.
Then they don't take any time to really reflect on the ways that it has permeated not just their theology, but like their actions and behaviors. And if I'm being honest, I've definitely done it.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, for sure.
So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about exvangelical assholery. There was something I was supposed to say and now I have forgotten.
Do you not have your own notes in front of you?
I do, but it was right before we started and I was like, oh yeah, I'll say that. And then I didn't write down what I was supposed to say.
I got nothing.
I know. All right. So do you guys feel like you are familiar with this kind of thing that I'm talking about? Do you know the idea of like people who within exvangelical circles who, and we're not going to name names.
Listen, if I was drinking, we would name names, but
oh, that was the thing. I was going to make a joke that the game we were playing tonight was that I was going to describe scenarios with exvangelical TikTokers and you guys had to guess which asshole I was talking about.
And if I was drinking, we would do it and I would say their names. This is my goddamn podcast. So
April and I would just slowly turn our screens off.
Katie, you can absolutely be drinking. I'm not drinking these days, so it's not you. Please drink for me.
You're not drinking these days?
I'm not drinking these days.
What? I didn't know this. You cutting it out for like?
I'm trying to make it special occasion, more like a social drinker than a regular drinker. So like I drank on St. Patrick's Day, but before that, it had been like 6 weeks since I had a drink.
Wow.
Yeah. So, so you all drink for me.
Good for you. Well, I have water here.
I have Diet Coke. I'm never going to sleep tonight.
Ooh.
Ever.
Same seas. All right.
But yes, to answer you, Abby, I am I don't know that I was super familiar with it, and I definitely don't think a lot of it in myself had been in check until TikTok.
Mm.
Because I had not, one of the things that was so remarkable for so many of us about TikTok was that we found community where we lacked it before after leaving the church. And so it was the first time I had been in an exvangelical community,
Yeah.
even though it was virtual. And so I didn't really know what I was still taking from the church until I saw it in other people, to be like, oh, you're just as dogmatic now
Mhm.
as you were.
Yeah.
It's just about something else.
Well, and there's these people too that still can't see nuance in things where like if I say something negative about the church, but then I come back and say anything remotely positive, even if it's something small, I get people that are like, nah, no, it's all bad. It is all of them. I'm like, I've never said all Christians or all evangelicals because I know it's not.
Yeah.
But there's these people that want to lump, they just take
Yeah.
the fundamentalism with them. Like they shed the harmful theology, but they keep
all of the frameworks.
Yes.
I've seen like sometimes in my own comment section, and sometimes I'll respond to people and sometimes I just delete it. But like, I look back at maybe somebody posting something on their Facebook or their Twitter, someone who I know is not religious in any way. Their kid was sick or something. And here comes Christians being like, I'm praying to God to heal your kid, or come to church with me on Sunday. And you'd be like, oh gosh, whatever. So then in my comment section, somebody will say, I'm still struggling with such and such because I still believe whatever. And I'll have somebody who follows me be like, well, your God's not real. And I'm like, why do you need to say that to that person?
Yeah.
Like, you don't actually have to do the same thing that they do to us.
There's this whole, so one type of exvangelical, and this type of asshole, I feel like isn't limited to exvangelical, but a lot of times that's their origin story. But the anti-theist, the person that's like, I am against all ideas of God completely, and there is nothing redeemable about God or church or religion in general. And they're like militant like that, where it's like if someone says something and they're just like, well, then it's all stupid and you should just shut the fuck up. And you're like, oh, whoa.
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude, what is your deal?
You're pretty mad.
You still believe in Sky Daddy?
Sky Daddy.
Yes. But Rachel, you just said you're so mad. I genuinely feel like that with them. I want to be like, you guys, the opposite of caring about something is indifference. It is not vitriolic hate. This thing that you're doing, all that tells me is that you've got some unhealed shit that you got to work on, bro, because that is bananas. I don't talk. Well, that's not true. There is maybe like two things I talk about like that, where I like clearly still have something on my inside that needs to deal with it.
Yeah.
But for the most part, if you're still talking about God like that, you are not over it. You are an asshole.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you're spewing it out and not trying to deal with it and handle it, I think it was a good lesson for a lot of us to learn sometime last year. This TikTok was going around, and I don't even know who the person was. And they were basically critiquing Christianity in a very, very direct and final way. Like, you're all terrible. It's terrible. If God is real, they're terrible. All Christians are terrible. Christian theology is terrible. All that, blah, blah. And a Black creator stitched them, and it was like a check for me. And I didn't actually even feel that way, but I'm sure there were some parts of me that had to unpack this too. That like the God of evangelicalism is not the God of the entire world through all of time. There are liberation theologies that are so beautiful. And it was actually Danelle that made the video.
Yeah.
And I remember he went into, what Negro spirituals were for enslaved people all those years ago, and how faith was something that healed them. And and gave them comfort in that time. And then through the years, how beautiful the Christian faith has been for Black people. And so it was like, check yourself, because this, at the end of the day, you're still centering white people in this, because all you see in Christianity is evangelicalism, and that's not it.
Yeah. I definitely think like that is part of too the way that people think some people think leaving the church means you're free of things like racism. They're like, well, I'm not an evangelical anymore, ergo not racist anymore. And it's like, well, actually, you might be interested to know that's just like the tip of the iceberg there.
Yeah.
And I think all of those verticals of the way that we see marginalized people, when we leave evangelicalism, those views of people don't just disappear. It's not like you realize you're wrong and then now you are right. I think that's how so many people view it, where they go, oh, I was wrong, but now I'm not that anymore, which means I'm right, because the opposite of wrong is right.
Yeah.
And they don't do that work of unlearning their inherent biases and their blind spots and the ways that they have lived in a world without acknowledging things that will keep them in those frameworks.
Yeah.
And then they end up assholes.
That's just, she's going to say that word as many times as she can say.
Yeah.
I also saw, I don't know if you guys felt the same way at any time, but I think Naked Pastor made a video about it at some point where he was like cautioning us from organizing. Do you guys remember that video?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was so important too, because that's another thing I feel like I've seen in evangelical spaces is hierarchy. And
that's on the list.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because I remember one video in particular from someone who I will not mention, who said,
I almost just guessed out loud.
Guess, go for it. Those people don't listen to my podcast or our podcast anyway.
I'm not gonna do it.
Do they have me blocked on TikTok? Yes, they do. But they made a video where they were like, we were just talking about this, and we need to decide as a community like what we're going to be talking. Like, made a video. Like, I thought we were all on the same page, and we were going to be talking about like, I don't even know you.
Yeah.
Why do I have to talk about the same thing that you're talking about? Like, there's no organization here. Otherwise, we're just a church.
I've noticed that the ism has started being attached to exvangelical, and it's created like there's now this exvangelicalism. Like I keep seeing that word, and I'm like, no, not this is entirely the opposite of the point.
Yeah.
Well, and I think if anyone has their eyes open, they'll see like people who would call themselves exvangelical have landed in so many different places. Like there's no way we would agree on what are we talking about now? Right. It's so it's so much more diverse than evangelical churches. Like, yeah, you have like, we might defer on if we raise our hands or if we sprint around the building. But beyond that, theologically, a lot of it's pretty much the same, minus, snake holding and speaking in tongues and slang in the spirit.
So there's actually
there's a few
margin of difference.
So since I never had any of that, then it's basically the same.
But the basics of, Jesus died at the cross, rose again, queer people are going to hell, like that basis is pretty much all there. And
yes, that one's very important.
Yeah, very important.
Yeah, I'm pretty much sure like homophobia is a part of the creeds in
the Nicene Creed.
Yeah, that's like that's an essential for them. Like it's right up there. You have John 3:16
there that the queers are gonna burn.
Yeah, you've got John 3:16, and then you've got like homophobia, like right there.
Yeah, right. John 3:16 and homophobia.
I think homophobia might be overtaking John 3:16 actually.
You know what? You joke, but like legitimately,
yeah.
I feel like some of those guys could like take or leave Jesus at this point. They're just like, do I get to hate gay people? Do I get to hate gay people? Then I'm here. I'm cool.
Yeah.
Jesus who?
But even like the understanding of queerness and the understanding of sexuality in general, like that, again, you've got the exvangelical assholes who have broken down the idea that, oh, well, maybe it's okay to be gay. But for them, any sort of deviation out of heteronormative, monogamous Christian relationships is all of a sudden too intense for them to handle. And it's like, well, you can be gay as long as you being gay looks exactly like me being straight, only it's gay.
Right.
And it's
Right.
like, well, that's not how that works
No,
at
I know.
all.
Like, I'm totally fine with gay people as long as it's a man still marrying a woman.
Right.
I'm
Do you guys
totally fine with gay people as long as I can identify which one of them is the husband.
do you guys think that part of that is the fact that there had to be an order, there had to be rules for so much, and so
Yes.
like how do we get rid of that? Because I've seen that in my own self through this journey of being like, well, there still needs to be a way that things should be.
Mm-hmm.
And it shouldn't be what it was before. And I felt like I needed to figure out, okay, well then what is it now? And it took me a long time to just sit with, and now I'm very comfortable with it, not knowing how things should be or what is necessarily true or whatever. I'm good with that now, but I wasn't for a long time.
I might be like walking into conspiracy territory here. So
Oh gosh.
it's not like that type of conspiracy. Anyway, I'll just say it's like, this is very much speculation. I have no way of proving this, but I saw someone tweet this out today. I don't remember who it was. And it actually like made me pause, and I was like, is that it? But I saw that there's obviously a huge push against feminism. They want the woman staying home. There's there's patriarchy conventions now. Like, right, exactly. Like it's
like the worst way to spend a weekend ever.
Oh my gosh, I know. I really want to infiltrate the Make Women Great Again one.
Oh my God, please do it.
Like maybe in drag. You want to go?
Yeah, let's do it.
Go as one of the dudes, because I'm pretty sure the husbands like take their wives.
Listen,
anyway,
if we could get you, I feel like, what's the one, the Calvinist character you did for our Christian bachelorette?
Job.
All you need is a suit coat blazer, a tight back of the hair bun, and those glasses, and like a fake mustache, and you're in.
For sure.
I actually think I could probably, like, I don't know what this says about me, but I've like done very close, like a pretty decent drag job a couple times. And I was like, if I actually had a legit wig, I'm like, people, and like combined the tiny boobs that I have, people wouldn't know.
I didn't mean to derail you. I apologize. I'm
So
just saying, I really feel
my conspiracy.
Like you can do it.
Yeah. Okay. I totally got derailed. Anyway, GOP society, everything, they're trying to pull us back to the 50s. Like they literally have said that. So someone said today, and with the another shooting in Nashville, which we were talking about before the show, but someone was saying, because I said, like, I feel like the new American dream is just hoping our kids survive grade school at this point. And there were a bunch of people saying, like, this is making me want to homeschool my kids. I want to homeschool my kids. And then someone said that one reason why the GOP isn't doing anything other than their love for guns, but like they almost like when school shootings happen because more and more people homeschool, which requires a partner to stay home, which more than 9 times out of 10 is the woman. And it's another way to basically put the patriarchy back on top because it forces a stay-at-home parent. I know it's conspiracy.
Shows how much they know. I am a stay-at-home mom who homeschools her kid, and I do it to make them anarchists. My daughter is a raging leftist.
Yeah,
we had the most age-appropriate conversation about police brutality and racism that you could possibly have with a 9-year-old, and she ended it like this. I think all cops are evil. And she said it like going up like a question at the end, and I was like, oh, I have this videotape because I was like, this has to be like a playback, like I need to know if I did this right.
Yeah.
And so in the tape you hear my panic, and I go, I didn't say that. How did you get there? And she was like, because if policing is based on racist laws that are from a long time ago, then there's no way to be good if you're enforcing those laws. And I was like, God damn it, you're so smart. How did this happen? So like they can think that homeschooling your kids always leads that route, but I'm part of communities where it's literally the opposite, where we're like, I'm not putting my kid in school because our government is trying to make them into obedient servants, and I'm not going to let that happen. I don't want them in my boat where you're 35 before you're learning the truth about American history and like things that happened that you were like, yeah, I mean, I know slavery existed, but the things that you don't learn and then you find out, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting conspiracy theory. And
I
I
know.
actually don't think it's that far-fetched, though.
I mean,
don't either.
I don't know if that's like an intentional thing, but I'm sure they'd be like, oh yeah, that's a plus. I don't know.
I mean, the way that they, you know, demonized the public school system and, you know, when Trump put Betsy DeVos in, you could tell they really cared about
it was a priority.
Yeah, very, very clearly.
I feel like even it's so funny because I wasn't going to go here, but now that we're talking about
Go there.
homeschooling, I literally like that's one way. There is a lot of anti-homeschool feels in exvangelical spaces. Like I've seen people who deconstruct and they talk about homeschooling like it's just straight up child abuse every time, all the time. And it gives me such a complex about it because I recognize that they are speaking out of a wound and a bad experience that they had, and also have to balance that out with like, I don't feel ashamed of what our choices are with this, but I do like you're still making me feel shame, and I don't know how to move through that because I firmly believe in this choice that I'm making. And also because someone made that choice for you and it wounded you, you're now shaming that choice entirely.
Which completely goes back to the lack of nuance that you can have this even in homeschooling. It's the same thing because a lot of ex-evangelicals were homeschooled. I was homeschooled.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, my homeschooling wasn't a terrible experience, but most of the people that I knew that also homeschooled were like your stereotypical homeschool.
Right.
So
and
yeah,
that's like what you think of. You think of long jean skirts and like I've literally seen a picture of you in an ankle length jean skirt. I just realized.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh.
Wait, where? Did I send it to you?
Yeah. I think it was actually a video. You're singing, you have like a pastel colored layer. It's a very early aughts look you have because you had like layered t-shirts on. I can picture it. So anyway, my point is I didn't know you were homeschooled, but now knowing that, it brought to mind that photo and I was like, oh, I see it.
So I was never homeschooled. I went to private school towards the end, but I grew up public school. And I have, Abby, to give like context to what you were saying, I've had a chip on my shoulder about homeschooling most of my life. My ex-sister-in-law decided to homeschool my niece there for a while. And I was like, tell my brother, you have to get her to send her to school.
Them in school.
Put her in school. Because I had only ever been around people when they were homeschooled who were in like they were very controlled by their parents, and they also just lacked genuine education. Like they would go to my church and they didn't know things that they should have known when they were 15, right? And so I only knew this part of homeschooling, and so I used to say awful things about people, and now I'm like, oh, I remember when you first told me you were homeschooling the kids, and I was like, oh, I need to go make sure she doesn't say anything I've ever said about homeschooling before.
And you've met my kids, like,
yeah, they're so well adjusted and like,
and they're genuinely so smart. And I think that the thing about this that's just genuinely widely applicable, and I think ex-evangelical spaces, is that so often people are speaking out of something that wounded them, and it makes that thing bad always in their mind. And so they are still doing that same sort of shaming and damning and being judgmental of someone else's choice. Only now they think they're on the right side of it because they're being vitriolic about the thing that hurt them. And I think that happens so much in so many spaces in terms of like deconstruction, people's choices about sex, people's choices about money, people's choices about like partnership and like what that looks like for them, they still kind of hold this weird, it hurt me. And like, there was something that went around, I'm going to forget it now, but it was something that went around on TikTok a while ago, something about, it's okay if you as a parent XYZ. And I remember being like, I'm going to fucking lose my shit on this app, because the thing that they were saying was okay was something that was done in my life as a child. And so it hurt me. So to hear someone say that it was okay. Oh, I have a better example. I don't know if you follow Frankie on TikTok. She's wonderful. She made a video about nervous system regulation tools. And she said, alcohol is a nervous system regulation tool amongst a list of many other things. And I had this kick in me that was like, oh my God, you can't get on the internet and tell people that alcohol is an acceptable nervous system regulation tool. And I sat with her and talked with her about it back and forth. And what I realized in that moment was she wasn't saying there won't be collateral damage to it. She's saying it does regulate your nervous system. Whether or not the risk is worth it for you is a whole other story. And I realized I was doing that same asshole thing of saying my experience with this was bad, therefore no experience with this can be good.
Yeah.
And I know that enough to tell you that you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that happens in exvangelical spaces so much, that we do that so much, where we're like, actually, I've learned better now. And so now I would have shamed you before, but now I'm actually right when I shame you.
Right. Justified in it.
And now I'm justified in my shaming.
And in terms of being exvangelical with friends who are still evangelical, that's a hard line for me to kind of navigate, because I talk really openly on my TikTok about being part of a system that hurts people. And so I've had some friends be like, so we're still part of that. And like, they try to justify it to me. And I'm like, I'm not somebody that you have to justify that to. I'm just saying how I feel about it. But it feels like a condemnation to them.
Yeah.
And part of me is like, well, it kind of should, because you're part of the system that, like, you're just saying that now I feel that I'm right about.
Right.
But like, you two have found churches and visited churches, whatever, that are not evangelical. And that's great for you, your family and your kids, whatever. And you know that I don't feel that way about me. And like, there's no conversation there.
Right.
I don't have to be like, oh, you take your kids to church. And you don't ever have to be like, Rachel, you should go to one of these churches. We don't have like that conversation.
Right. The acknowledgement that like your choices are just genuinely none of my business. If your choices aren't hurting me, or I can't see that they are hurting someone, they're really none of my business. And it's not my place to tell you how to live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think in April, I know with like Beecher coming out and all those things, that I feel like I was watching when that happened to see if some of the people who follow all three of us on the apps and who are, championing this like exvangelical movement that we're all in. If I know if you're listening to this, the faces I got on that, like, Rachel,
It's not a movement.
It's not
it
a
just
movement.
is.
It's not a religion. It's a relationship.
Oh God, you're
Oh,
fired.
sorry.
You're out. But I was anxious to watch them, because it's like, so I've found that a lot of people are like, okay, I'm here for what Rachel's saying. I listen to her podcast. I follow her on TikTok. I love it. And then the minute I say something that I believe or no longer believe that now conflicts with them, then they need to tell me that.
Mhm.
And so I remember I was like Mama Bear over here, and Abby and I were both like all in your guys' comments, like when all that was going down. Because I'm like, if I see anybody that follows us say something shitty to April, we're gonna freaking fight.
Yeah.
But did you get any of that from people that surprised you because they were in this same kind of process as you of leaving the church?
I'm trying to think. I don't remember getting any backlash from. I think I got a couple, but I don't think they were exvangelicals. I think they were evangelicals that like sometimes I get followers from evangelicals because some of my TikToks, it's not like clearly evangelical content. It's just like funny, making fun of weird Christian culture.
Yeah, it's
Right.
the
So-
ones where the people who are mad at you for not making every single video be a critique of the church. Those are the random videos that get you actual evangelicals because like,
Right.
"Oh, that's funny. We do that.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. And then they follow me, and then
Like they
I
think she's
I got-
being self-deprecating. And then
Right.
the next video they're like,
Right.
oh no,
Which
she
I-
ain't.
John
which I
Christ
am.
over here, and she's like, no.
I am being self-deprecating, but it's just like my old self, you know. I'm a new person. The old has passed away.
Oh gosh, you guys are killing me right now.
It's hard to have this conversation without those throwbacks.
No, I know, but it's like honestly, a lot of the language is still applicable.
It's
If
still-
not,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not more so. Like I
cannot get
feel like I am a new
this
person.
season out of my vocabulary
No.
to save my life.
say
because
that
it's so
all the
fucking
time.
applicable.
Same.
Yeah. The
Really in a
season of life that I'm in.
Literally, Beach and I the other night were like, we're just in a season of waiting. Like, but we really are. Like, I mean, that's a true statement.
I'm gonna make
Regardless
an
of
exvangelical assholery jar where you have to put $1 in the jar every time you're
Every
an exvangelical.
time.
That's the funny asshole where you're like, I just
Mhm.
like this just still is, so I'm gonna still use it.
Well,
Yeah.
on like in that vein of talking about that, I have seen people and a little bit myself not let people use the vocabulary that they brought with them too. And that goes back to Abby, what you were saying about just like our own personal experiences with certain things. But like when somebody's like, oh, my husband's in the hospital with a heart attack, and you were like, I'm going to start praying right now. I've sometimes had to tell me, like, stop myself from rolling my eyes. Where I'm like, if that person just wants to tell that person they're praying for them right now, like, is that affecting my life in any way? Is it affecting my life in any way whatsoever? Like, or, everything happens for a reason, God, or like, do I believe it? No. Do I have to correct it every time I hear it? Also, no.
And it's also annoying too that like I know we're not a group, but evangelicals treat evangelicals like a group. Like if one goes off the rails, they blame the entire group for it.
Yeah.
So it's a little annoying when I'm like, I've experienced so much more love because to be fair, like I've met so many atheists and agnostics over the last couple years that are truly like some of the kindest people, and like the majority of them are. But then you just have a couple two people that are just straight up assholes that are coming in, and like I've had people in my comments like pour out their heart, and people that are asking like I want to be a space for people that are on that line of leaving evangelicalism but maybe haven't quite done it yet. Like I want this to be a place where these people can ask questions. And then you just have all these people coming in, because people asking me about, well, how'd you change? Like, what'd you do about this? And I'd like to be able to actually talk with these people without someone coming in being like, you just got to give it all up because Christianity is blah, blah, blah. And Jesus wasn't real.
You just got to not be an ignorant asshole. That's what.
What an
Yeah.
idiot.
Yeah. Maybe you should get like mental help. You believe in a sky fairy that I'm like, oh my gosh, chill out.
Easy.
I really want to ask those people, do you understand that you are literally evangelizing? Your message is different, but you are evangelizing right now. You are proselytizing your view and your message onto people who don't fucking want it.
Mhm.
You are fucking Mark Driscoll. Not that they would necessarily know who that is, but like you're literally the thing you hate. Just stop.
Yeah.
Right.
In every area of my life, I try to like check myself on not becoming the thing that I hate. Like that phrase I think is really important.
Yes.
And evangelical spaces have been bad about that. I'm again, no names here, but in a different season of life on
I'm taking
TikTok.
notes about who I think these people are that I'm going to check in with you about later.
Like you think you know exactly all the people that I'm talking about this whole time. But there was like a movement among some people to like kick somebody out because they didn't like what they did, which is so churchy. Like you don't, there's no like you're not the elder board here, like making a decision and like saying that this person can't talk about faith and stuff anymore. But that's how it was. It was like,
oh, it's so weird.
And then Abby's calling me at 3 a.m. and we're talking about all this shit. Like we're elders discussing things.
Oh my God. It felt just the way church leadership felt.
Mhm.
There was a moment in that season where I made the oh, fuck me.
You didn't even do that on purpose, did
No,
you?
it's just so rare. There was a moment during that time of my life, which
Mhm.
isn't better sounding like
No. Go with season. I
than
like
season.
it. It's
There was
safe.
a moment in that season where I made the joke to someone else. When did I become Deconstruction TikTok's pastor?
Yeah.
That was not something
You said that often.
I said that often.
Yeah.
And it goes back to like Rachel, what you said about electing leaders and like hierarchies and things like that. And one thing that I have found is that there is one type. I forgot that Marsha was with us tonight. You fucking know Marsha's sitting at her computer going, "Oh, I know who they're
Marsha
talking
knows
about."
every single person that we
Marsha,
ever
it
talk
just
about.
occurred to me that you know exactly what we're talking. Shh, Marsha. Anyway, there is this certain type of exvangelical asshole that I strive not to be, and this is one of those things that I actually try to measure myself and my actions against and be like, are you slipping into this? Because it is the person who believed that they were entitled to a voice or a position of leadership or authority or power in the
Yes,
evangelical church, and they were denied that, and now they seek it here in this
Yes.
space, and they're not interested in growing people or like if I make content, it's because this thing helped me, so like maybe it helps you too. I don't know.
Mhm.
That's not their goal. Their goal is to tell people what to do because they believe they could do it, and they always have. And I know so many people who did not achieve certain positions within evangelical churches. And so they walked away blaming that evangelical church. So they didn't leave the church or deconstruct because they think churches are flawed and the system is rotten. It's because the system cheated them.
Yeah.
And so now they look to have that notoriety and authority in exvangelical and deconstruction spaces. And it's still that same, like, I am someone worth listening to, God damn it. Someone listen to me. Those people are so risky because they're so often we are willing to listen to them. Like evangelical is littered with those people who just like one day planted their flag and were like, I have things worthy of hearing. And we were all like, okay.
Sure.
Tell us.
Well,
I think
listen.
John Piper is one of those people.
Gross.
But Abraham Piper's.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
great.
yes. He's actually a positive example of that. Abraham Piper showed up one day and was like, you guys should listen to me. And we were like, I think we should.
Yeah.
I know. I'm totally, yeah. He's
You're
got
right.
like I guess his dad's charisma on the evangelical side.
But he's using
For
it
the
for good.
ex-evangelicals. One thing I love about Abraham Piper, though, he is nuanced, though.
Yes.
Like he brings nuance into it. Like he even said, "Hey," he's like, "I hear all these Christians all the time." This is one of my favorites. Like I hear these Christians all the time that are like in their sermons, like, you know, if I didn't have Jesus and if I didn't have God, like I'd just be a serial killer. And Abraham Piper was like, you know what? I am so glad that you have God. Please keep God. Like I am so glad that God is doing wonderful things for you, that you're not killing people. Like that's great. And you know, he was just saying like there are some people like, and I think we've talked about this before too, but like I know a lot of people that were like drug addicts or alcoholics. Like these are the people that give the big testimonies in the church that all the really good kids envy, but would never actually do anything bad, but like they get praise in the church anyway. You have all these people that go from being like highly addicted to a substance, and then they go to church and they go, you know, through some rehab program or something, and it works. Like they get off the drugs, they get off the alcohol, and they give all these testimonies that God healed them or whatever, but really they just get addicted to Jesus,
to the high,
like like the high of, and that's why you see like I know so many people that were like ex-alcoholics that were so intense about like Jesus and which is great because it like worked for them, but it's just like that's just what you're addicted to now,
right? And I do think that we have to be honest about the fact that attention feels nice, right? Like every time there's a TikTok creator or any sort of influencer who's like, oh, the attention is just a lot. Like, I want to be like, no, it's not. You can tell. I can tell that you like it, because when someone genuinely doesn't like it, it doesn't look like this. So attention feels nice, and you can absolutely develop a dependence on that feeling, like the feeling of people paying attention and finding you interesting and liking
Right.
you. Like, it feels good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then I don't think that changes once you go from being an evangelical to an exvangelical. Like, it feels good.
So something, again, I don't know if you guys ever noticed this, but as three people who people were paying attention to, like creators on the internet talking about deconstruction and talking about faith and exvangelical and all of the things from the different positions that we all have talked about it in the ways. I felt like I saw people who were also creators, and that there became kind of this competition of like, who's been deconstructing longer. And I don't think it's necessarily wrong to, like, I've acknowledged, like, I think a lot of us were deconstructing before we really knew what that was.
Right.
Or like, I saw a post on my Facebook today of something I wrote 10 years ago. And I was like, oh girl, you were totally checking out, and you did not know yet, but you were totally checking out.
It was
but I feel like
the pit stop in, I'm still a Christian. I'm just really self-aware about it.
just really, yeah, basically. I'm gonna send you, when we get off here, I'm gonna send you this thing I wrote, and you're like, yep, you were
It
definitely
was, you're still a Christian, but you put a black square on your profile.
right, basically.
Damn it,
But
I think April's the funny one.
she is the funny one. I think we're all funny, but April's
Anyway, I'm so sorry. Continue.
No, you're good. But I noticed that, and I still notice it sometimes in different things where, like, it's not saying, oh, I've been, I deconstructed 9 years ago. It's going like this. I mean, like you're just ahead of the game.
Right.
I saw somebody recently, and Abby, I told you about it, where they were like, everybody said, like they were like Joshua Harris, whatever, but like I was being taught all purity culture stuff like way before that. And this bitch is 3 years older than us. I'm like, no, you were right there with us. Stop trying to, like, I think there's
Joshua Harris isn't the name because he was first. He's the
Right.
name because he was a big
in the biggest
name.
book,
Like,
whatever. But it felt like in the video she made talking about it was like, no, you youngins over here, you're finally deconstructing. But like, what?
yeah.
That's
I've definitely been guilty of that, where I felt like, how dare you try to teach me something? I have been deconstructing longer.
I've never noticed you do that.
Well, that's because I've been deconstructing for a
I
really
will
long
say-
time.
Oh my God, you asshole.
I use the same. This kind of makes me a little sassy sometimes, but it's usually like if it's hit the wrong side of the algorithm, and I'm getting constantly attacked, and it's only after they're like being condescending first. But I will say, if I've
You don't
got
have to qualify it. You can be petty.
I know, but I feel like I
who you're
do.
with?
Anyway, but I am guilty of like someone being like, well, eternal hell or blah blah blah, or being gay is a sin and blah, and I'll be like, I used to think just like that.
That's a very different thing, and that is passable. That's passable assholery. So, like, you keep with that one. We're good.
No, but it
I'm like,
always
you believe in
it
a literal
works though.
hell.
It works and it's true.
That's cute.
Right.
It's like, but I usually, a lot of times I am doing it just to be like, I totally understand where you're coming from. I used to think just like that. Literally, like, you can't say anything right now that I didn't already believe at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I didn't do it like that. I did it like, I mean, if I could put this in evangelical terms and make it so easily understood, I have a pride problem. I have a problem with humility. And now where I sit, I go, that's not fucking, it's not because you're a human and humans are inherently prideful. It's because you were raised by a person who thought that the best thing you could be was the smartest person in the room. That's why you do that. Like, come on, man.
I will say, you check yourself on that though. Like, there have been times that Abby and I are talking about something, and Abby's like 3 minutes into a Snapchat where she's like educating me on something that clearly I know, and she'll stop herself and be like, you need to say, Mary, all of this, but I think and then you check yourself and you stop. And I actually understand that, because from being somebody who used to pride herself on being the smartest person in the room. And like now I'm
That
like,
shit
I want to
runs
be
deep, dude.
It runs deep. Like, and I've learned as an adult to maybe be like, oh, actually, I want to be the dumbest person in the room because I want to learn from everybody. That was not me for the first 30 plus years of my life. And so when you do that, Abby, it doesn't irritate me because I'm like, girl, she's telling me over there, she's like, you know, talking about judges. And I'm like, I know what the book of Judges says.
Right. I'm like, here's all this context. But I reckon, and I think that's the thing. Like, this is why I wanted to. Caitlin's over here, like, things are sounding real churchy tonight. But I think that this
We're
is
going to
the
give an
thing.
invitation and
We
definitely take
wanted
an
to
offering.
let
But
you
not
know
all
that we're
churches, Caitlin.
actually going back to evangelicalism. This
Yeah.
is no longer the heretics. This is the right with God's. Welcome
And
to
you
the
can
show.
literally just Venmo us your offering and we'll take it. Thank you.
Mhm. Go ahead, 10%.
No,
of it.
the reason I want to talk about it is because, like,
Don't do it.
so if they ban TikTok, right? And if Twitter continues to fall, new apps will come. And with those new apps will be new people talking about these things. There was a time where the three of us were among a super small amount of post-evangelical spectrum Christian content creators. It was a small group, dude. And now there are people who I'm like, oh my God, you've been doing this way less time and you have way more followers than I. Like, I don't even know who you are. This is the first video I've ever seen of you.
I have something to say about that.
Okay.
About this. And I do you want to finish a thought? Were you not?
Well, my thought was just that, like, when those new apps and those new creators and those new voices pop up, I want people to look at it critically in ways that maybe I didn't when I first was on Twitter, because it happened with me on the other side of this equation on Twitter. And I look back at some of the people that I initially followed who eventually I was like, oh God, I think you might actually just be a shitty person. And I trusted you because you had Exvangelical in your name, or you talked critically about the church. And I did not think about it enough to go, just because you are saying headlines that I like doesn't mean I should devote myself to you.
I also wonder if part of it, and sorry, Rachel, I know you have something to say.
You're good.
But I wonder if part of it is that in evangelical spaces, it's also ingrained that, like, if this person is an evangelical, they are good.
Right.
So you like have people like, doesn't matter how many times the pastor sexually assaulted, like they'll be like, oh no, he's redeemable, he's good, you know, or you know, that was an extreme example, but like we're initially taught to like be trusting of people that are already in the in group. And so when you see Exvangelical, one, we're not used to how diverse and expansive this group is because it's not evangelical, but I think like an instinct is Exvangelical, I'm an Exvangelical, this person's trustworthy, I can trust what they say.
Right.
Yeah. I when you were talking about the small group, it made me think of it because there was at a time in a different season, there was a relatively small group of people on this specific app on TikTok where you'd be like, these are the deconstruction creators. These are them. We can name them. Here they are. And if you look at that group of people, if anybody listening to this or in the comments who know us from TikTok, if you made yourself a list of 10 of those people and look at where they are now, are they talking about it anymore? For the most part, no. And I see two scenarios with this. One, it's not the subject that they're talking about the most anymore because as a healthy person does, they've evolved from where they were. And deconstruction is not this like experience that you'll be in for the rest of your life, and it doesn't have to consume, like you're a whole person outside of it.
Right.
So I know Abby has talked before on videos where people are like annoyed that you didn't talk about something anymore, and you're like, well, I don't have to do that, right? So I think that there's that side of it, and then there are the people that we all know couldn't monopolize that space, and they pieced the fuck out. And now they're still on TikTok, but they're coming at different people in different areas of TikTok, and they're trying to be the head honcho in that side of it. And that's very reminiscent for me of church life because there's like certain people I know that have been through 25 churches here in Cincinnati trying to be on staff or being on staff and then leaving because they couldn't take over the church or they couldn't become this or whatever. And they just go from church to church to church until they can matter or feel like they matter. And we saw that in that small group of TikTok creators. They're no longer talking about deconstruction because they couldn't control the group of people anymore.
Yeah. There's just such
I'm about to say a name. I'm just kidding. No,
No,
not
you
but
are not.
Look at both of their faces. Rachel, shut the fuck up.
No, I think what it boils down to is there's just such a desire for like human beings so often come with this intrinsic desire for notoriety, to be known, to feel like you are valid. And I think that in our woundedness, how we seek that validation can just be really damaging for other people. And we see that play out in the evangelical church. And I think the next step of the conversation is to say, like, okay, we have to start holding ourselves accountable beyond the line of evangelicalism. We have to start looking at it and going, okay, these are my behaviors and my toxic traits, if that's what you want to call them, my sins, if that's what you want to call them, the shadow work I need to do, like whatever language you have for it, use that language and say, I can't rely on the shifting of my theology to change my behavior.
Yeah.
I have to actually do that work my own self. One of the things that I see myself reflected in this conversation a lot as the exvangelical asshole is that I look back at old videos where I like went unnecessarily hard at someone, and I'm like, oh God, dude, why? Like, what did that matter? I didn't change their mind, but anybody who might have been thinking in that same framework, but looking for ways out of it, I just fucked them up for that. Like, I just marked myself as a totally unsafe person for them because I was so aggressive in a way that I didn't need to be, because I knew I was right. And I heard this quote from a different podcast called You Are Good. I just don't want to say it and not credit it. But they were talking about the difference between meanness and sharpness. And he said, I always confused my approach to that strength, the strength being cutting observational sharpness, as the strength itself, meaning I confused like the force of my impact with the thing I was using at all. And I see that so much in myself as an exvangelical, in my early exvangelical, specifically content creation days, where it was like, if I made a bang, then that meant I was valid. And if I spoke with authority, now we like, I didn't know this language then, but I would have used words like drag them. If I absolutely destroy them, then I'm like, yeah. And I could have done all of it the same exact sharpness, just less mean, and been better. And I wish that I could tell myself that then. Be like, you can be this sharp. You don't have to be this mean though.
Well, as the resident dragger of people, which I am.
That's my battle. That's my cross to bear.
No, and I actually understand, because there are people that didn't probably deserve that one girl Rachel treatment that they got. And I tried to be, as I've grown, I feel like I try to be more deliberate in who I'm giving that to. So like some of these Twitter, there's not one ounce of me that feels bad about these Twitter pastors, not one. But there are people that were on TikTok early on that I now see were just really struggling as well, and hadn't unpacked some of the toxicity, and said one comment to me, and I handed them the RAS, like, for sure. And I'm like, oh, that was a little
Wish I
unnecessary.
hadn't done that.
Right.
April is looking at us like, I don't.
Have you ever yelled at anyone, April, on TikTok?
Usually, well, one, I started getting banned a lot, so I had to stop. Like, and my drag wouldn't even be a drag.
April used to send us the videos before she would post them, when she would have to drag somebody, and she'd be like, I think this might be too mean. Do you think I should take that ending part out? And Rachel and I'd be like, go harder.
We definitely would say,
so
that for sure.
So anyway, so most of it was more funny. I never really went like directly at someone and like usually I was making fun of what they said, but taking it to another extreme, like if they called me Satan, I did a video where I pretended to be Satan because like
Yeah.
that was my job.
You're
You know,
like the clever, like political cartoon satirist, and Rachel and I are just steamrollers.
Right.
We're like, listen, motherfucker.
Right.
yeah.
My like sharp tongue was something that I got corrected on in church spaces a lot.
I'm going to ask you to watch that moment back and look at your face when you say corrected on.
All right, I will. I
That is
did.
pretty great.
I got corrected on that in church spaces a lot from the time I was a child. Like I have memories in youth group of like one of the youth leaders being like, Rachel, just because something is true doesn't mean you have to say it. Like I remember them saying that to me. And so I felt like, and even my pastor when I was an adult, like my feelings got hurt the older I got because he would always remind everyone how mean I was. And he was like laughing when he would say it, like, you don't want to cross Rachel. Don't get on her bad side, whatever. And I'd be like, I'm actually this really nice person. Like because I think there's a difference between kindness and like, I'm a kind person, but like, I don't take your shit. And so then I like kind of got into this thing where I let people walk all over me because I wanted to get rid of that title of like Rachel's a mean person. She's been mean her whole life. And so I stopped being mean, but I also then stopped having a backbone.
Mhm.
And I felt like the church took that from me a little bit because I was so tired of being like framed in this way.
Yeah.
And so then when I left the church, I'm like, mean Rachel is fucking back. And I will Google the fuck out of you and find out everything about you and tell everyone on TikTok. So I should probably talk to my therapist about that.
There is some movie that's like, they're talking about, you don't want that person mad at you. And they're like, why? Will he kill you? And they're like, no. First, he'll find out where your parents live, and then he'll slowly discover every family. Like this increasingly like he'll burn the ground your cows walk on. And I feel like that's Rachel, but digitally. Digitally.
It is me.
Sometimes I send Rachel messages like, hey, I need to know just like anything I can about this person. And in 15 minutes, she's like, well, I found their property tax info from 2007.
For sure. You guys, I spent 2 hours the other day, 2 hours of my life finding out that this one Twitter pastor that we all have seen on there and people all know is, who has lied about his name, his education, his military experience, his work history. I know everything.
He's like the George Santos of the church.
He is. I may or may not have messaged his brother on Facebook.
Oh my God, you guys, Rachel's a psycho. Like the kind where if you are loved by her, it doesn't feel psycho. It just feels like a warm hug.
A warm hug.
Sometimes who was that one guy? There was some guy in April that wouldn't leave April alone on TikTok.
Bible dude.
Yeah.
Andrew?
Oh my God.
I didn't
Rachel knows everything about this man.
I made his video. I'm like, don't you have a wedding to plan right now?
This guy who keeps making videos about me is
it was like one a day for a while.
Yeah, it was
like,
and then all of a sudden Rachel's got his mother's maiden name.
I just reminded him that he needed to help his fiance plan their wedding. It was upcoming.
Oh my God, it's so intense.
Listen, don't mess with my friend.
See, this is the thing. This is a good example of how it's okay to, we're not saying it's not okay to be an asshole, but just like, don't be the wrong kind of asshole. Be like an asshole for good.
Right? Sure.
Yeah.
If you have one takeaway.
Here's the thing. Don't just be an asshole to everybody.
Yeah.
There are some people that deserve for you to be an asshole.
Make a lot of judgments about people and whether or not you should be an asshole. No, I'm just kidding.
I think it's don't be a dogmatic asshole. Like that's what we were for all of those years.
Yeah.
You just gotta know when.
You have to know when, and
You
it's
gotta
like
know when to fold them.
you're gonna start singing.
When to hold them.
No, when to know you
I
better
think
walk
catch
away.
your
No, when to
moment.
walk
mean
away.
that it's time to fold them. Sadly, we don't have a game tonight because the game was supposed to be I was going to read tweets and they were going to guess, like my own tweets, and they were going to guess whether they were evangelical tweets of mine or exvangelical tweets of mine. This was an ill-gotten game from the beginning because I only started tweeting because I was deconstructing.
We should have done a game. Maybe we'll do this next time. I'll find my old tweets.
Oh,
you
dear
have
God,
to guess.
please.
Did April say this in 2012 Or did Lauren Boebert say it?
Oh gosh. Do you know who I used to unironically tweet? Do you know who I used to unironically retweet way back in the day?
Ann Coulter?
Ann Coulter. How did you know? Did I already told you this or something?
No, but I had Ann
See,
Coulter's
and
books,
this
and I
is
just
where
felt like
my-
it must have been Ann Coulter.
Who's
This
Ann
is where
Coulter?
my exvangelical assholery comes in, because I literally just now was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, why? I would never in a million years, ever, even when I wasn't evangelical. And I
Okay,
had
listen.
to, I had to rein it in.
I went to Liberty University where our faith and our politics were one and the same for sure.
Yep.
Like Dr. Falwell had more politicians speak at Liberty than pastors across the board.
Oh my
Right?
gosh.
Like, for sure. Like my commencement speaker was none other than Newt Gingrich. I didn't go to commencement, but Newt Gingrich. The year before that, John McCain. Fucking Chuck Norris
John
was
McCain is an
Yeah, but
that's
this
a
is a long
good one,
time
though.
ago. I know.
John McCain is the one Republican that gets a pass from me.
Yes, I would say.
you should do that trend where it's like I hate all Republicans, and then it shows that one. Like,
The problem
but
is when
not
I
me.
But
say
not his
gets a
daughter.
pass, I mean
I
just
hate
like
her.
from a humanities standpoint.
Yes,
I still
absolutely.
didn't want the man as my president, you know?
I did vote for him.
Oh my God.
I
Guys,
also voted for him.
He was the last Republican I
God.
ever voted for, and I actually don't feel bad about
I've
that.
never voted for a Republican. I'm a gold star Democrat.
See, that's what we have a very
No,
different.
what were we just talking about, Abby?
I know that's
Yeah.
why it's a joke.
Sure,
Here,
we're both laughing.
I'm gonna give you a gift right now. Okay.
Oh, is it
In-
one we
in
want?
In light of everything I just laughed at you for and was a douchebag asshole about, I'm gonna tell you a secret, a deep, dark secret that I've been keeping
You're alive on the internet
for a long time. I know.
Voted
Ready?
for Bush.
No, I just said I never voted for a Republican.
Oh, dang.
I used to like Mark Driscoll,
Ew.
like a
Oh,
lot.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I never did that. So
Yeah.
No, hated him.
Yeah. I used to like Mark Driscoll. I used to
keeping it real.
I used to be like, Rob Bell and Mark Driscoll are
Love
probably
Rob
my
Bell.
two favorite pastors.
I do think that me and April had probably a little bit more similar, where you guys had more similar and like being charismatic and all whatever. April and I had a more political
Mhm.
similarity in that, because like I could have never ever imagined voting for a Democrat ever.
Oh, yeah. I would have died before I voted blue.
died.
Yeah.
So I had a bigger shift in my politics.
Plot
Maybe.
twist. I didn't have to die.
Yeah, didn't
When I
have to die. I know I've said this before on the podcast, but I literally went from voting for McCain and crying when he lost to working on Obama's second campaign. Like my change happened very
You turned
quickly.
it around so much sooner.
I
Because
did. I did this so much earlier than everybody else.
I campaigned for Romney.
Oh my
Ugh.
God.
Oh, I always forget that
I
about
would just
you.
like to point out the comments right now, real quick, that were literally like multiple people aghast at my horrible confession. I just feel the need to point
I
that
mean,
out.
April and I were over here talking about reading Ann Coulter, but you liked Mark Driscoll, and they're up to
I
here
know.
with you.
But
I think they already knew that about us. They
Yeah.
knew we were Republican.
Yeah, we were super Republican.
We didn't know Abby was into a patriarchal, misogynistic.
In my defense, he didn't
People under
start
the
with the
bus.
women are a penis home thing. He started in a very different space.
You want to hear something super cringy? My pastor was like one of the thousands and thousands of little mini Mark Driscolls running around.
Ugh.
And he did the Real Marriage or whatever book for all the small groups. So
Mm.
I was in a single small group. Oh my God. And they still made us do it. And we like we read this book and watched the videos as singles doing the Real Marriage. And I remember like watching the videos of him and Grace talking, and I'm like, these people, something is wrong.
Do they
here.
even know each other?
Like something they're messed up. April, have you been blocked by Mark Driscoll yet? Because Abby and I
haven't, and I keep quote tweeting him too. Because I really want him to
You're
block
trying
me.
to.
Yeah,
That man hates me. And somebody the other day said, how do I get that honor of being in the Blocked by Mark Driscoll club? And I said, Well, I told him that I hope Gen Z finds him and that I hope they're mean. And I'm pretty sure it was that for
Yeah.
me.
I think the reason why he hasn't blocked me is because I quote tweet him and I don't reply directly to him. He probably, like the narcissist he is, just likes me giving him a platform. And I've got to rethink this now.
You know what he does on Twitter that a lot of the Theo Bros and Twitter pastors do is they just use like buzzwords to piss, like all they want to do is incite people.
Oh yeah.
So they're like, trans people are bad, and then they're just like waiting for the quote, replies or whatever. They're just all little boys that never grew up.
I know. Oh my gosh. I might have told y'all this, but Mark Driscoll and Greg Locke, within 24 hours of each other, I think I actually tweeted about this. This is like a month ago. Basically tweeted the same thing.
Which
and
was?
Like, it was something about Planned Parenthood being
obviously
birthed of Satan, but there was like a very specific phrase in there that like was like one of y'all copied the other person, and I couldn't figure out who I think it was. I think Greg Locke actually said it first, and I think Mark Driscoll then said it like 10 hours later, like slightly different, but basically the same thing. And
people get in trouble for that on Twitter, April. People get in trouble for that. Okay, this is
April knows. Yeah, when I unintentionally did that, it had been weeks. So
you got big
God,
trouble.
I completely forgot about that. Talk about exvangelical assholes.
Right. That's another thing we should end by saying, like, also, like, there's not an original thought.
We end the game. Let's end the podcast by each naming the Twitter or TikTok name of an exvangelical asshole we dealt with. April, you are first. It can't be me or Rachel.
It could be me.
I'm not naming any names.
Listen, if you know my number,
name names.
If you know my phone number and you want to text me and ask me who, I'll tell you. But I'm not saying it right here. I'll do it. I don't have a problem.
I regret this. I know this was my episode, but I have so much regret.
Marsha will tell you.
Guys, thanks for listening to this month's episode of The Heretics. Signing off.
Oh my gosh, there's a better way to leave this.
I don't know what it is. I'm just trying to get this ship right.
I'll take care of the goodbye. I think basically sum up is that there's ways to navigate not being an evangelical asshole, and it's worth examining. Correct? Is that
right?
All of us?
Don't be an asshole for being an asshole's sake. Make sure the person deserves it.
What's happening is Rachel knows how to push buttons, and it made me feel panic, and so I was imploding.
Making Abby feel panicked is like it's better than sex. It isn't, but we'll go with that. Okay, we love you guys.
Better than dirty culture evangelical sex.
For sure.
When you weren't having O's.
Kind of cheap, but okay.
We will see you all at the end of next month. And as a really good, like homework assignment.
For the most part.
Listen, as a really good homework assignment, Easter will happen between now and then. And so no matter where you fall on how to celebrate Easter, try to catch yourself. If you're being a dick, if you're like, I can't believe people sung on church on Easter Sunday, try to dial that back a little bit.
Does our podcast come with homework now?
Yeah, it absolutely does.
Let the Christians eat their angeled eggs.
I'm just saying, like, that might be a great first thing to be like, let me check my deviled eggs. Okay, love you guys. We'll see you at the end of next month. Oh my gosh, what a train wreck.